Since 1987, the Final Fantasy video game franchise has delighted fans all over the world. Square Enix's epic role-playing game series has sold over 100 million copies worldwide. Now, join us as we look back at all the magic, beauty, tragedy, mythology, and wonder of this beloved franchise. This is the Lifestream podcast, Final Fantasy Retrospective Series.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Lifestream podcast, Final Fantasy Retrospective. This is the 6th entry in an epic journey covering the entire expanse of the Final Fantasy franchise. And joining me on this monumental quest are JasonTandro.
Good morning, America, and other places that are not America.
Ryushikaze.
Look, I'm just going to come out and say it. Good morning, Vietnam!
Go to your corner.
My itty-bitty living space?
And joining us for the first time on any of the Lifestream podcasts are representatives from the amazing rpgmg podcast, Cody.
How's it going?
And the Red Mage.
Good morning.
Guys, I gotta ask, what in the hell does the rpgmg stand for?
I'll let Cody take this one.
All right. So rpgmg stands for RPG Maker General. We are from the dark corner of the internet known as 4chan, and
It's not that dark.
Yeah, it's gotten better.
I was there in the dark days.
We'll discuss stank memes later.
Let's not.
Yeah. Anyhow, so what RPG Maker General stands for is there's a special board on 4chan called VG, and it's for video game generals because there are games that are frequently discussed and they don't want it cluttering up the video games board, which is V. You don't want to have, a Fire Emblem thread on V all the time, so you go over to VG, and that's where you have your Fire Emblem General. You have your JRPG General. You have your East Asian Genocide General, which covers Dynasty Warriors and all those other games. And then they also happen to have an RPG Maker General, so we can discuss RPG Maker at any time of day without bothering all the people on V talking about
The shoot things.
Probably.
Yeah, or E3 or whatever.
Okay, that makes sense. I knew the show was based around RPG Maker. I just couldn't seem to figure out what in the hell the G stood for. So how if you don't mind my asking, did you guys start the show just based on friendships you'd built through 4chan then?
So funny story about that. I've been on RPGMG since before they were numbered. We actually officially started numbering them around 16 or so, and now we're currently around 155. Been about 3-4 years. But so you get to know who people are by how they type, because we don't always use a name we're for the vast majority of the time anonymous. But there was a guy who said, "Hey guys, let's do a podcast and all talk together and do the thing." And so I begrudgingly trusted a stranger on the internet, and
That's how we lost a kidney. But the next guy who said we should start a podcast, now that.
So I lost a kidney, but I gained a podcast. The guy who originally did it, he was fun. He did great, but then I kind of took over once we started needing structure and subjects, and I just kind of became the guy that kept the lights on, as it were.
Right on. So, what is your guys' history with Final Fantasy then?
Oh, dude, I reference Final Fantasy in like every single podcast that we do because it's like it is like the backbone to my gaming history. I very fully remember right around 2 years old watching my uncle play the original Final Fantasy. And that was like the first game I ever really saw, and since then it's just been pretty much a straight shot all the way through. I've played all of them, most of the spin-offs, all the offshoots, everything. It's my I hate to be the fanboy, but I mean that's I am.
It's okay. You're in good company.
Yeah, you definitely
That's
are.
true now.
How about you, Cody?
So my exposure to Final Fantasy, I first heard about it around the PlayStation days with FF7. I think my first exposure to Final Fantasy was either this one, FF6, or the demo for FF7, but the first ones I played were actually the spin-offs for Game Boy, which are technically Saga, but called in the US Final Fantasy Legend.
Because branding.
Yes. Yeah, so I got all three of those games. I ended up with Tactics. I bought Origins for PlayStation, which is 1 and 2. So I've kind of slowly built up the back catalog, as it were, of the Final Fantasy games.
So which all Final Fantasies have you played then?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
I'll just leave it at numbered Final Fantasies then.
Okay. Are you counting the ones that I've played or the ones that I popped open for about 45 minutes and then never touched again?
You don't have
Let's
to
go
mention
with the
10
ones
again.
Yeah.
Okay, so I beat 1. I gently caressed 2 and then never touched it again. Gently caressed 4. Spent a lot of time on 5 messing with jobs. Yeah, got through most of 6, most of 7, caressed 8, caressed 9, and then I helped my friend beat a boss in FF13 because he couldn't.
Yeah, that sounds like me in Final Fantasy IX. So
No, wait a minute. It sounds like you guys are not fans of Final Fantasy IX then?
no, see, for me anyway, what happened is I went to go and visit like my cousins at one point. I don't even remember how old I was, but he was literally on the final boss of the game, and he couldn't beat it. And I'm watching him play, and I'm seeing what all the character actions do, because I have no idea, like, any of these characters, what they're doing, but I'm seeing how the game works just by watching him. He can't beat it. I give it a go just because I'm like, what the hell? Yeah, and I beat the final boss. So I've beaten Final Fantasy IX, but I've never actually played it.
Yeah, you should go back and do the remaining 99.999%.
Yeah, no, it's on my to-do
But stop
list.
literally at the final boss. So there's no need to do that again.
Right, for sure.
I actually haven't done much of FF9 because I got through most of 7, and then my roommate stole it and moved out. And this is right as...
That son of a...
Yeah, and this is right when GameStop was wrapping up their PlayStation sales, and FF9 is pretty hard to emulate. So my friend Adam loves FF9. It's his absolute favorite Final Fantasy. So I've already experienced by proxy half the game because he's told it all to me. But maybe with the recent Steam release, I could actually do it myself at some point.
JT, I think Cody just stole your Sad Hulk music moment.
We have plenty of Sad Hulk music to go around.
Well,
I know you're looking for a pun here, JT.
Look, it's you ever have that overflow where you're just like, I have to pick your battles? I'm saving myself for later, okay?
Man, I don't know what's going on or who Sad Hulk is. But if his name is Hulk, I probably don't want to meet him this early in the morning.
No, well, at this point in the morning, he will be cranky. But he's sad, so he's probably going to be standing on the side of the road trying to catch a car.
Yep.
Sad Hulk drink coffee and read about Brexit.
Alright, so for those that don't know, this podcast series is a love letter to the terrific Final Fantasy video game series. Throughout the series, we will be playing and providing in-depth reviews for nearly every Final Fantasy game released in the West. And today's episode, as you heard Cody allude to, is for Final Fantasy VI, the much-beloved Final Fantasy VI. Developed by Square Co. initially for the Super Famicom and released in Japan on April 2nd, 1994. It was then released in North America on October 20th, 1994, and from what I recall, had a hell of an ad campaign leading into it. Of course, it had been retitled Final Fantasy III upon its initial release into North America, but I remember I believe I was in 6th grade when it came out. And I remember several of my friends walking around with these magazine ads and for Final Fantasy III. Oh my God, it's the greatest thing since sliced bread.
The Nintendo Power
they had
page.
TV commercials.
Yeah, that too, yes. And I don't really remember them very well, but I do remember they did have TV commercials. Do you remember them at all with any detail, Ryu?
Oh, absolutely. No, God, I've burned some of these into my head because they get into this larger point of how commercials for everything are always such utter bullshit, and while they may be funny, they're not trying to tell you the truth. They're trying to sell you a product. So the commercial for Final Fantasy III, specifically Final Fantasy III, because obviously there's a completely different one for 6 over in Japan and for the re-release. But that is monster auditions that Mog is holding, and Mog is the reason why all the monsters are getting shoved into the cart, and the point is, holy crap, we've shoved a bunch of crap into this cart. Which is true. They have done so much dumb crap to this game to make sure that everything can fit. This is kind of the original Pokemon of Final Fantasies in terms of just barely squeaking in under the limits of the cartridge, and also being glitchy as hell.
Yeah. I can't wait for your glitch breakdown, Ryu. This is going to be great.
Oh, there's a ton of them. I don't even want to go through all of them. I just want to go through some of the funner ones.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We'll start out here by taking a look at the production credits. Ryu, I always leave this to you since you are able to say the Japanese names correctly.
Yeah.
So,
all right,
Ryu,
so,
if you would.
Hiroki
the producer.
Hiroki Teriyaki.
No. He was on a different game.
Oh.
You're thinking of Mystic Quest. The producer was Hironobu Sakaguchi. The directors were Yoshinori Kitase and Hiroyuki Ito. Main programmers, Ken Narita and Kiyoshi Yoshii. The graphic directors were Tetsuya Takahashi, Kazuko Shibuya, Hideo Minaba, and this, you probably have never heard of this motherfucker, Tetsuya Nomura. I don't think he went on to do anything.
Don't ring a bell.
Yeah. Music was by this really indie sort of grunge house composer, Nobuo Uematsu. Image designer by this struggling artist, Yoshitaka Amano. Battle planners, Yasuyuki Hasabe and Akiyoshi Ota. The field planners, Yoshihiko Maikawa, Keita Ito, Satoru Tsuji, and Hidetoshi Kazuka. The event planners, and this is actually an interesting thing, because when they say event planners, they mean, for the most part, I'm pretty sure that these are the two people responsible for the in-battle cutscenes.
Which were amazing for their time.
And they've got an interesting limitation that I'll get into later. But they are Tsukasa Fujita and Keisuke Matsuhara. The effect programmers, like your battle effects and whatnot, Hiroshi Hirata and Satoshi Ogata. The person responsible for battle programming, Akihiro Yamaguchi. The sound programmer, the one responsible for taking, Nobuo's music and turning it into blips and bleeps and doing sound effects, was Minoru Akao. The effect graphic designer, the person who created the effects that the programmers put into the game, was Hirokatsu Sasaki. The field graphic designers were a lot of people, actually. This is the most different people on a single thing, which is actually kind of amazing at the time. But Takaharo Matsuo, Yusuke Naora, Nobuyuki Ikeda, Tomo Inazawa, Kaori Tanaka, Takamichi Shibuya, Shinichiro Hamazaka, and Akiyoshi Masuda. Monster graphic design, though I think this is not a complete list because it technically ignores the fact that Tetsuya Nomura was in fact also part of monster graphic design. But he gets a graphic director credit, so I think that's probably why he's not here. But it's Hitoshi Sasaki. That's the only dedicated monster graphic designer. Object graphic design, Kazuhiro Okawa. Sound engineering by Eiji Nakamura. The remake planner, this was for obviously the remakes, Women Lee and Aiko Ito. And then the first English translation was, now I'm going to struggle with this one a little bit, Ted Woosley.
Ooh, close.
Yeah. the guy who everybody hates on for all the Woolseyisms, alternately hates and loves. Because he did give us a lot of really, really dumb things, but he also gave us a lot of hilarious, really, really dumb things. The remake for the GBA had a different translation that was done by Tom Slattery.
Thank you, Ryu, for going through that very long list of names. And as I recall, I think this is Final Fantasy VI's development staff was the largest at the time, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And I know that in large part was because Square was sort of hell-bent on making the best Final Fantasy VI they could, or best Final Fantasy in the series that they could. And I think in large part, they certainly accomplished that. I mean, as I've said before, Final Fantasy VI is universally well beloved. So,
except by the people who hate it, who think that people who like it are being bitchy about 7, and then of course there are the people who like 6 who think the same about the people who like 7.
Mm-hmm.
That's a
goddamn hipsters.
Yeah, no, that stupid fight is almost as irritating as the LTD.
Oh Jesus!
Oh my God, dude, we
don't
to
need a
avoid that
herpes
topic
outbreak
because
here.
we will get into a half-hour-long argument over this nonsense on the forums. Let's just back away.
Yeah.
By the way,
I'm
Mike, he
saying-
responded.
All I'm saying is that the fight still lingers. I see it every so often.
So I'm going to start out with discussing the development of Final Fantasy VI by quoting something that I saw from our friends at the Final Fantasy Wikia. It was a quote from Nobuo Uematsu in the liner notes to Final Fantasy XIV battle tracks, and I really, really love this quote here. He says, "I still remember when during the launch party for Final Fantasy VI, the notoriously unforgiving Mr. Sakaguchi gave a speech. Thanks to every one of you, we have created the best game in the world. No, the universe. Thank you." I cried. There were tears on my face. Those tears made me realize just how much I had invested myself in the project. I hope that the Final Fantasy games forever continue to be a source of joy, not only for the fans, but for the developers as well.
Wow.
That's
Very
intense.
powerful statement from the man that many regard to be the greatest video game composer ever. So, powerful remarks towards Final Fantasy VI.
Yeah, for sure.
The Japanese work ethic is not to be understated.
For sure.
Yeah.
Neither of those is how screwed up the Japanese hierarchy system is.
No, that's true too.
Wasn't it the first Sonic game where they still weren't allowed to put their name in the credits, but they were so hip and badass they just put them in, but they were black, so it showed up on a black screen and no one could see it?
I don't recall hearing this.
Could be.
Yeah, that was the first Sonic the Hedgehog game. They still had the hierarchy where, you just programmed a game. Why should you be in the credits? So they literally put themselves in with black graphics. So all you saw was a black screen, but they knew the credits were there.
Wow.
It's
Kind
awesome,
of bizarre.
actually.
So, work began on Final Fantasy VI almost immediately after the international release of Final Fantasy V in 1992. Production lasted about a year with a very large 50 to 60 member team. The game launched on schedule and within budget, but not without the strain of a significant crunch towards the end of production to iron out remaining issues in the code, which, per Ryu, they didn't do a very good job of anyway.
Well, as per the wiki, despite the team's effort, the game has a myriad of programming oversights and glitches. And literally, if you follow that, there is it goes to a landing page that has 56 separate categories in it that are just different glitches and bugs.
Some of which I didn't realize actually existed until was pointed out to me by Ryu. I think probably the most famous one is it, and I can't remember what the original spell names were, but was it Vanish and X Zone?
Vanish Doom and X Zone is the hit all version.
Yeah,
that is. As I said, that's related to the evade bug, which No, we don't.
I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. I cheesed the hell out of that during the last part of the game.
Are you serious?
Vanish Doom?
Yeah,
all the time. It works on most bosses, but there's a few that it won't work. Pretty much, I just used it to clean up the dragons because I didn't want to actually bother to fight them.
my version that I played did not had the glitch removed, so
I was playing the original SNES FF3. So
that kicks ass.
I figured it was the first one I ever played. I needed to play the original copy, Yeah,
I mean, I have the original SNES cartridge, but I no longer have an SNES. So
well, that sounds like a personal problem and should be corrected.
Yeah, you're right.
Talk to your doctor.
Probably...
and if your gaming session lasts more than 4 hours, it was awesome.
So were you guys going to go over Vanish Doom for our audience, or was that going to be later when we discuss glitches in general?
Oh, later.
We can discuss. We'll do it later when we discuss the glitches. Perfect. Here. Yeah.
There's no way we're getting out of this without discussing Vanish Doom.
No, it's impossible. No,
it may even get brought up when we start going over the story.
Yeah.
So
I'm sure it will. Oh my god, it's so much fun to abuse. like the Leet River thing. I got to mention that now. God.
Oh yeah, I've used that one.
I don't know that one either. So
that is an infinite leveling trick.
Oh yeah, never mind. Yes, I know that glitch now. Yes.
That's not even so much a glitch as just
abusing the system.
Yeah. Which there is a slight distinction between.
Very slight.
Managing memory was a challenge, as at the time it couldn't be entrusted to computers and had to be done manually, meaning human errors were much more prevalent, and Square had no tools or software to aid programmers in detecting errors. Though not the first game to use the Mode 7 graphics of the Super Nintendo, Final Fantasy VI made more extensive use of them than either of its two predecessors. And unlike Final Fantasy IV and V, the world map is rendered in Mode 7, which lends a somewhat three-dimensional perspective to an otherwise two-dimensional game. And I will go ahead and mention here that I actually find the Mode 7 thing very distracting, and it kind of sucks. I hate trying to traverse the world map, especially on Chocobo, because it is fucking impossible to figure out what the fuck you're looking for in that
what direction
mode.
You're going. Everything.
It's impossible. And it's,
I think
I'll just leave it there for the moment.
I think it was handled better in Secret of Mana with Flammy, because Flammy had no restrictions on where he could move, but you also had, if you press start, a world map proper that you could rotate and figure out where to go.
Yep.
Yeah, Secret of Mana, for as much of a completely different game and series that it is, basically did a lot of what 6 was trying to do and did improve on them in some small way.
Yes, I feel that Mode 7 was probably something they wanted to do because something that we'll probably bring up later, and I will definitely bring up later, is how FF6 tried to push the Super Nintendo to its limits and introduce more depth than previously had been on Super Nintendo games. That's one of my favorite parts about FF6 is all the technology they tried to throw in. The world map could be considered change for the sake of change, which isn't always good. Like New Coke. Who enjoyed that, really?
No, not a lot of people.
Theoretically, nobody here, because we never got to try it. It was gone that quickly.
Yeah.
Yoshitaka Amano, who, of course, was a longtime contributor to the Final Fantasy series, returned as the image designer, providing concept sketches to the programmers, and apparently some liberties had been taken in the conversion, such as the changing of Terra's hair from blonde to green, which is just a bizarre choice. Now, I have seen blonde-haired people have their hair turned green by jumping into pools full of high chlorine, though, so maybe that's what happened.
So what you're saying is that
definitely.
the world of Final Fantasy VI is heavily chlorinated.
Chlorinated, yes.
Yes.
Much chlorine floating through the air
That
there.
explains Kefka so well.
Yes.
And it wasn't poison he put into Doma River. It was just a shitload of chlorine.
Chlorine, yeah.
He just squeezed his he wiped off some of his makeup, because it was chlorine-based.
Oh my god.
Interestingly, the PlayStation release of Final Fantasy VI includes a full motion video that actually goes back to Amano's original designs, despite the fact that they didn't change the the sprites to match the full motion video. So you actually do have your blonde Terra in the full motion video, but you have green haired Terra on the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Bizarre.
I mean, it's just like playing the original Metroid, where, for some reason, Samus has green hair.
Yeah. I actually agree with it from a design standpoint, because with all the different dudes in the game, Cyan is basically bald and has his ponytail. You have Edgar and Sabin, who are both blonde but have different hairstyles. If you had both Terra and Celis, it would be hard to tell them apart from their hair. But if you make Terra's green, then she becomes more distinct. Like giving Link pink hair in A Link to the Past.
It might actually be more of a palette issue rather than a distinction issue, because the red versus white clothing should take care of that. But it might be that the actual color palette didn't have enough bits to make proper blonde hair on Tina Terra's sprite. And that's why they went with green, because it was already used elsewhere in the sprite.
So just like how NES Samus can either have green hair or brown hair, depending on which suit you end the game with.
Yes.
Okay.
That's interesting. I never thought of it from that standpoint.
Yeah.
And this is why we have you on the show, man.
No shit. Final Fantasy VI was Yoshinori Kitaze's first directorial job in the Final Fantasy series, as Hironobu Sakaguchi placed him in charge of event production. Kitaze was tasked with unifying the scenarios and dramatic sections in the game into a coherent narrative. Hiroyuki Ito supervised the supervised the development of battle aspects, and it was up to Sakaguchi to bring the project together as a whole piece. Aside from the story, Final Fantasy VI had many details undecided when development began, and a great many things were filled out along the way, which explains how so much got shoved into it. Sakaguchi has said that sometimes RPGs force too many images and too much sound onto the players, robbing them of the feel of control, and to avoid those responses, Square did extensive research during Final Fantasy V and VI in how players feel interactively involved in the game while upgrading the visual and sound effects.
They completely forgot these a few years later.
Elaborate for us, Ryu.
I'm just going to say mash the square button during the summons cutscene.
Oh, yeah. Jesus Christ.
See, I thought you were going to bring up either 12 or 13 with their autopilot combat.
I could, but I was going. I'm going to work my way up to that.
Okay.
There's also some dumb things in 10 that they did. with the very asinine mini games that were required to get your ultimate weapons.
I remember those.
So the base idea for Final Fantasy VI was that every character would be the story's protagonist, thus ending said argument about who the fuck is the protagonist for Final Fantasy VI.
It's go-go, bitch.
Everyone on the development team contributed ideas for characters, and the game was to feature individual character episodes. Director Yoshinori Kitase has later commented that the influence of Final Fantasy VI may have been responsible for the greater emphasis on character creation in subsequent Final Fantasy titles. Production was a hybrid process. Sakaguchi came up with the story premise based on a conflict with Imperial forces, but as the framework was designed to provide leading roles to all characters, everyone on the team could provide ideas for character episodes. It was Kitase's job to join the episodes together. Locke and Terra are colored by Sakaguchi's influence, whereas the episodes for Shadow and Setzer were devised by Tetsuya Nomura. And pronounce this one for me, Ryu. Is it Kaori?
Yeah, Kaori Tanaka.
Provided suggestions for Edgar and Sabin, among others. Kitase himself devoted his efforts to create Celis and Gao. The idea was to grow the Final Fantasy characters of the time from mere ciphers for fighting into characters with substance to evoke complex feelings in the player, which they did a damn good job of.
That's true.
So I wish that there was more space on the cart, because I do feel that some people sort of get short shrift.
Yeah.
Like the Moogles.
Especially the Moogles.
Yeah.
Other than Mog, all of the Moogles are actually other people. I'm not even joking. Every playable Moogle is actually a final member of your party before a in-game transformation, like in-engine transform, is done on their stats and appearances.
Wow.
That's interesting.
Similarly, anytime that Kefka or General Leo appears in your cutscenes, your in-party cutscenes, he's actually taking up, whichever he is taking up one of your party slots, and you will only have 3 people in your party at the time. At most.
Wow.
That's interesting.
They must have been really squeezing that cart, huh?
Oh, they were squeezing the fuck out that cart.
I'll just real briefly touch on the English localization of the game. As we all know, the game by now the game had a bunch of changes made from the original Japanese to the English translation, and I think a vast majority of that was due to the fact that the English translator Ted Woolsey wasn't given very much time to do the translation. He was given 30 days, and I mean, with a game this big, I don't think he can be blamed for some of the flubs that happened there.
No, not really.
Most
not
of
at
the
all.
flubs are dumb things that were mandated, like a lot of the censorship.
Yeah, and I was actually going to bring up the censorship next, but yes, you're right. Some of this shit was due to bizarre censorship. Like in the early Final Fantasy games, pretty much everything from like Final Fantasy 1 probably up to Final Fantasy 6, all the religious imagery was removed. Anything related to anything religious was removed, and it's just really bizarre.
Even things that is as innocuous as the spell name Holy,
yeah.
Pearl.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just extremely strange. Now, I mean, I guess I see the argument for the censorship in the way that some of the graphics were redone, because the Japanese have a little bit of a different feeling as far as risqueness in games, and And one other real quick development note I wanted to make mention of is on the Game Boy Advance port, where they did do some more censorship on the game by removing Terra's torture scene. And it never actually dawned on me that that actually was missing until I went and played the PlayStation Network port of the game.
So they reintroduced it and retranslated it?
Yes.
No, they just removed it completely from the Game Boy Advance port of the game.
Oh, so it was in the original SNES cartridge, but they took it... Okay.
Yes. So, I don't know what the point was, but bizarrely it was gone. And I guess from my original playthrough on the SNES, I didn't really remember the scene when I played through it on the GBA version. And yeah, I didn't notice it was gone until I played it on the PlayStation Network port.
Torture's bad, okay?
All right, so the development through here, we'll get into the characters from Final Fantasy VI. We'll start out with just listing off the characters here, and if you guys have some comments on said characters, feel free to interject here. Tara Branford is the first of the protagonists that we're introduced to. Then Locke Cole.
Well, hold on. Give me a
Locke.
split second, because I want to point out that her name is specifically meant to sound exotic, which is why it was Tina originally, because that sounds exotic
Japanese,
to Japanese
yes.
people.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that would make
It's
sense.
It Was Tuesday name for us, and that's why it's Tara.
Yeah, you can't have
Gotcha.
like the Dark Lord be named Bob.
I will have you know that Dark Lord Bob is one of the greatest TV shows out there.
You know, I don't think
It is a touching family story. No.
he still is not as good as Tim the Enchanter from Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Well, I will thank you for that
No,
compliment.
well, nothing is. A comment on Terra's etymology, interesting because, I got this from the game trailers retrospective. By the way, if you haven't watched it yet, go watch it.
It's fucking amazing. We've gushed about the game trailers documentary many times.
It's amazing. But yeah, so Terra is Latin for earth and Greek for monster, which is actually kind of perfect because it's better than Tina, which means mediocre 80s singer.
Just because there was
Holy
one with
fuck,
that name
man.
doesn't mean that's what it means. Because it also means DOA fake. Come on.
Okay. So you'll excuse me, I'm going to be Beyond Thunderdome rolling on the river, okay?
I don't think
Holy
you'll ever
fuck,
get
man.
beyond Thunderdome.
Locke Cole, guys. Locke,
Speaking of terrible puns,
Speaking of terrible puns, Locke, get it? He's a thief. I think he was named after the philosopher. I like to think he was named after literally a lock.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, probably.
alternately,
And
he was supposed to be
he's
Rock,
arguably.
and he was named after Jammin.
It's too early. Too early.
There's 14 characters, guys. This is gonna...
Okay, if I could have an aside about Locke, you know, when I was a little kid and reading his dialogue, I thought he was the smuggest motherfucker on the planet because it's like,
Oh, totally.
He is only-
Totally.
Oh, yeah.
With the benefit of hindsight, we can realize that he's only the second smuggest motherfucker on the planet.
you're a thief, bitch. Please, I'm a treasure hunter.
Treasure hunter. Setzer Gabbiani being the smuggest bastard, and Shadow being the one who has
hell
the
yeah.
right to be the smuggest bastard.
Yeah. No, look, all I gotta say is, call it a translation glitch or what, but there's a scene in South Figaro where he really gets pissy about that. He's like, call me a treasure hunter or I'll rip your lungs out. Like, dude, calm down.
Yeah.
Calm down,
Wow.
killer. We've got Edgar Roni Figaro, Sabin Rene Figaro,
Or MASH.
Mash, for sure. Street Fighter
obviously-
2 character Sabin.
Yeah,
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
ain't nothing wrong with that.
Obviously, The Figaro name is a reference to the opera, The Marriage of Figaro, because opera was a thing.
Opera is such a thing in this game.
Yeah,
It totally is.
which is really great because Sabin really just does not care at all when you get to the opera scene.
Well, he knows that bad things happen to Figaro in opera.
That's probably true.
Then we have Cyan. Is it Garamond?
It's actually Cayenne Garamond.
Is it? Okay. There you go.
Cyan is actually a shortening of the full name to fit with space, which is Cayenne as in the pepper, because he has a hot temper.
Interesting.
Oh, okay.
So instead, he's named after a color.
The color of his armor, sort of, kind of.
Ish. And how do you guys pronounce this next name? I always pronounce it Gao.
Yep, Gao.
Okay.
Aloysius.
No,
Aloysius.
G-A-U, Aloysius. What's the...
See, I thought they did it as Gao because it's very unambiguous, especially less ambiguous than G-O-W, and it sounds like a sound that some monster kid would make. Gao, Gao!
It is actually a onomatopoeic monster sound. It's almost like barking.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Makes sense. And good use of a long word there, Ryu. Extra points for that. I haven't heard that word since Batman series.
Welcome to TLS Retrospective Podcast After Dark.
Took us 45 minutes. We're a little behind, guys.
We're not
in here like 5 minutes in.
That's a big one.
We normally hit TLS After Dark about like through the intro. So
we were giving our guests a chance to start it up, but
yeah. Then we have Celeste Cher.
Celeste Cher. Or possibly Sherry.
All right, Ryu. Go ahead and take the rest of the fucking names, please.
Well, the reason I think it's Sherry is because I think
you're probably right.
French, and she's a fetching woman.
That's true.
You know, I'm now envisioning all of her dialogue with a thick French accent, and it's 1,000 times better.
I'm imagining it with an antebellum Southern accent, but that's because in my head she's talking to Gambit, and so she's rogue. So Locke has the thick French accent, and she's the Southerner, but that's got to do with the fact that I'm an X-Men fan.
Please, I am a treasure hunter.
No. I'm a treasure hunter, mon ami. Don't make me cut you.
Please stop.
Oh my God.
Apparently you don't realize what you signed up for, sir.
No, I don't.
You all...
Holy shit.
Setzer
Okay,
Gabbiani,
moving on.
The gambling playboy who has an airship. He's basically Tony Stark.
Yeah, my favorite thing about Setzer is just back when the game was released, like all the weird fan theories about why he's got the scars all over his face.
Do you know I have these scars?
Because they're never touched upon.
Yeah.
Oh, right? Jesus.
But it was just an interesting thing because it's never touched on ever.
It was just a thing
in the entire game.
Presumably, I like I say, maybe he just got them from having lost a few bets in his day or something like that. I never really thought too much about that. Always wanted to know was the whole Go-Go mystery, and because I subscribe to the theory that Go-Go is actually Daryl, but that's just me.
Daryl?
Yeah, that's my headcanon.
This is my brother Daryl.
There's two different theories. My theory about Setzer's scars is that he got them in a crash because he and his friend were big on racing. But there's two theories about Go-Go's. One that it's Daryl, and the other is that it's Setzer's friend. Because you find Go-Go where Setzer's friend's airship went down.
But is
Setzer's friend is Daryl.
Yeah.
Oh no! Sorry, no. There's a friend. There's another. It's not Daryl. I'm thinking of somebody else. It's Shadow's partner.
Oh,
Baron. Yeah, that's the other one that people think that Go-Go might be.
Yeah.
I've also heard one that says he could be Emperor Gestal, but I don't buy them as much. That's not so.
Though speaking of Shadow, the most justifiably smug man on the planet, he has a dog.
It's true. The dog attacks for him. It'll block for him.
Wouldn't he be amazing on the Dos Equis commercials as the most interesting man in the world?
I mean,
Yeah, I would say so.
what do you think Shadow went on to do after Final Fantasy VI?
Dying in the rubble.
He doesn't always die in the rubble, actually. Depending on things that you do in the game, he may decide to get up and leave.
Oh. Well. It's the smart one. Realm how?
I think Aroni. Realm Aroni, the San Francisco
Aroni.
tree.
Which is so on the nose, it's not even funny.
My Aroni has a name, it's R-E-L-M, okay. She...
Is the most useless character in the entire game? Yes.
No, because Gao is the thing.
Also, Realm is not the most useless character because she can break the game for you.
Oh yeah, she breaks it
Sketch
a lot.
glitch, bitch.
So we started the anime trope of little girl with amazing powers really early, didn't we?
That we did.
I mean, to be fair, that was already Rydia.
Oh.
They just grew her up.
This is true.
That's true. That's true.
Strago, is it Magus or Magus?
I'd
How
go
do you
with
guys?
Magus.
Yeah, I've always given her G.
Yeah, those two, Shadow Realm and Strago. First off, one big family in case that wasn't obvious.
Mhm.
But what's even more interesting is, quite frankly, I think all three of them are not counting game-breaking bugs, completely overvalued. I hardly used any of those three for my C team.
Just because
I use Shadow a lot.
Just because Shadow, you paid a lot of money for him and he didn't last one battle, you're still bitter.
I am bitter about that, but honestly, by the time I got him in my party for good, I already knew like the high-level spells, and his throw ability was fun. Yeah, until you started getting out of the attack star, it really didn't matter. And by that time, you could learn Ultima.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I
Based
didn't use
on
that much. I'm more of a.
You're more of a.
Yeah, so. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm more of a science.
Based on what I've seen, the best way to traditionally break the game is keeping people's levels low, putting espers on the characters you get early, and leveling them up with obscene stats boosted by the espers. So anyone you get late, therefore, would be weaker by comparison.
Yes.
But at a certain threshold, because I got my guys to 70 in this run through, at a certain threshold, it's going to amount to the same thing anyways. Because, I mean, my party at the end game wasn't even, ignoring glitches, wasn't even phased by the final boss. Then again, I used Torado a lot, so.
That'll do it.
You think maybe also that they put all the characters with the cool and useful abilities up front, like Edgar and Sabin?
Well, no, because they put Gogo all the way at the bottom. And he's got all the cool abilities. No.
That's true.
Yeah.
Gogo's an interesting thing, and we'll get to him mechanically later.
Or her.
Because next up is Mog.
Mog, yep. And I don't know why, but I always enjoyed Mog's character. I mean, I don't use him very much in the game. I just liked the character. I thought he was very endearing. So
I know what you mean. He's a sarcastic teddy bear. It's like
pretty much.
Yeah.
We need a game that's him as the main character, because he's one of the guys I think gets short shrift.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, he definitely does.
And Umaro definitely does also.
Umaro doesn't even get.
But yeah,
he's like, it's like, hey, I'm in a cave.
Yeah.
Speaking
That's
of,
all.
hi, I'm in a cave. Go.
Go.
He's not in a cave. He's in a monster.
That's
A
right. He's
monster's a
technically in
type
his own.
When it's bad.
Jabba Jabba's belly, anyone?
Exactly.
Hey. Except for that didn't have a totally unfair ceiling crushing thing that I died on 3 times this time, so.
Wow.
No, it just has
it
just has a princess that demands you carry her everywhere. Your call, which is worse.
Yeah, okay, that's worse.
Okay, with introducing our characters out of the way, we can move into our favorite section of the show, breaking down the story. And this, of course, as always, is courtesy of our friends at the Final Fantasy Wiki. And we will go about this in the same way that we typically do. We will do this round robin. We'll start out here with Cody.
All right. Let's see here. And you're just going to tell me when to stop?
Just take the first paragraph, and you can stop there. We'll probably interject comments in there anyway, so...
2 Imperial soldiers, Biggs and Wedge, accompany a woman to raid the neutral city of Narsh using Magitech armor, due to reports of a frozen Esper having been dug up in a mine shaft. In the rear of the newest mine, they find the Esper Valagarmanda that sends out pulses of magical energy, killing Biggs and Wedge and destroying the woman's Magitech armor. She awakens in the home of a man named Arvis, who explains she was being controlled by the Empire with a slave crown. An amnesiac, the woman has no other knowledge of her identity other than her name, Terra.
And thus, we were introduced to Biggs and Wedge.
And thus, they left the dinner.
Yep.
Absolutely. They absolutely do not last long at all.
Not at all.
It is worth noting that they lasted longer in 7.
Yeah,
That's true.
Totally. And they have better last words.
Their death is a lot lower, though. So, it's a trade-off. In order of the names and bubble screen here.
Yeah, you're up next, JT.
Killer. I'm going to take these next few because they're small.
Okay.
The Narsh guards arrive to arrest her, and Arvis sneaks Terra through a back door into the mines. Terra is cornered and falls down a shaft into another area of the mines. She falls unconscious, remembering a man named Kefka Palazzo, who placed the slave in her and ordered her to burn 50 Imperial soldiers as a test.
I think that's supposed
a man
to be
named Locke.
Dull, since it's 2 Z's.
Huh?
Palazzo.
Palazzo.
2 Z's, like pizza.
All these freaking Italian names. Palazzo.
Yeah, exactly. He used to be a loving, friendly Italian man, and then the chlorine happened.
And we've come full circle, folks.
Used to hang out with Setzer Gabriani and talk about the good old days with the fine wine and the women.
There's a story there about how they were the Mario Brothers. I'm not going to get into that, okay?
Wow.
Oh, good lord, we went places.
We always did.
A man named Locke arrives at Arvis's house. Arvis and Locke are members of the Returners, a rebel faction opposing the Empire, although Narsh remains a neutral. Arvis asks Locke to get Terra safely out of the city, and with the help of Mog and the other Mughals who live in the mines, who we'll never see again after this fight, Locke fights off the Narsh guards and escapes with
You
Terra.
will see them again.
See them, but we won't fight with them.
You see them, but you don't fight with them.
No,
Correct.
you do.
Yes.
They are Celis, Cyan, Savin, Matt, literally all of those Mughals are your party in terms of code.
So they're transhuman Mughals. They
Fair
transition during the course of the game.
They're transmutated. There was an equivalent exchange.
Ryu,
the two travel to South Figaro Castle, a desert nation allied with the Empire, where Terra meets the flirtatious King Edgar. Edgar attempts to hide Terra from the Imperial ambassador, Kefka, who arrives looking for her. Locke tells Terra Edgar's alliance with the Empire is superficial. In truth, he collaborates with the Returners using Locke as a go-between. Kefka...
Now, I was just going to say, Edgar is kind of a creepy bastard sometimes.
Only sometimes?
Yeah, he totally is.
This cat would totally be in all kinds of trouble for sexual harassment.
Look, I did not
there's a
have
scene
sex
later in Tomasa.
with that half Esper, Tara Branford.
No, there's a scene later in Tomasa where he asks Realm how old she is.
Yes,
Like,
yes, it's a fucking predator, man.
Watch your receipt right there.
Could you totally see him on To Catch a Predator?
No, the thing he takes steps to make sure he never. That's why he asked the age.
See, now that she says she's 12, whatever, he's like, okay, 6 years, sets his magical watch or the sundial or whatever.
It literally has a list of names and a countdown.
Holy shit! It got dark again. I regret my remark.
Kefka sets the castle aflame, and Terra, Edgar, and Locke flee on chocobos, while the castle burrows into the sand, which is some goddamn awesome engineering. Kefka sends 2 Imperial soldiers in Magitech armor to attack the trio, and during the battle, Terra casts magic, stunning Edgar and Locke, even though you can actually cast magic with Locke in the party, and he won't give a crap. Intrigued.
Is that the first in-game or in-battle cutscene? Yeah. So important to note that.
Yeah, not counting in the very beginning where because you don't actually fight the Esper in Narsh, even though it's set up like a battle.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the first one where it breaks the standard the party lineup setup and actually has them move around on it. Which is, I think, an important thing for defining an in-battle cutscene or just random in-battle dialogue.
It's almost like going to a stage play where they're in the middle of the play and then they break out and go into a monologue away from the rest of the actors.
Well, I'd say it's a bit more like
or listening to a podcast where they randomly stop talking the game and start making sex jokes.
I'd say it's a bit more like when, in the middle of a play, they head off of the stage and start not interacting, but wandering around the audience while still talking to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Pippin?
Scotty? Yeah.
Many times. Chicago Bulls.
God, I redact my comments.
Intrigued by Terra, Edgar and Locke ask her to meet with the leader of the Returners, Bannon, to remain safe from the Empire to gain understanding of her abilities. Terra agrees, and they travel to South Figaro and then north through Mount Colts, where they encounter Vargas, son of the martial arts master Duncan Harcourt, having recently murdered his father out of jealousy and hate. Edgar's twin brother and Duncan's pupil, Sabin, the mashed potato, intervenes and defeats Vargas, and joins his brother to help them stop the Empire.
Red Mage.
At the Returner hideout, Bannon, the Returners, and Terra discuss their plan to strike back at the Empire. Deducing the Empire's power derived from the rediscovery of magic, Bannon asks Terra to return with him to Narsh and speak to the Frozen Esper. The group receives word that the Empire has attacked South Figaro and has discovered their hideout. Locke volunteers to sneak into South Figaro to slow down the Empire, while Bannon, Terra, Edgar, and Sabin travel to Narsh along the Leith River. The voyage is interrupted by a loud octopus named Ultros, and during the battle, Sabin washes down a different fork in the river.
Now, I fucking love Ultros. Ultros is one of my favorite villains ever.
Yeah,
he is the best
excellent.
recurring boss of all time.
Yeah, no doubt.
I love Gilgamesh. I love Gilgamesh a lot.
Gilgamesh is the best.
Well, yeah,
He's Gilgamesh
like
as an
Gilgamesh
octopus.
So Ultros is a better antagonist. Gilgamesh is a much better rival.
That's fair. I can concede that point.
Gilgamesh is interested in fighting you because you guys are awesome. Ultros is just loud and annoying.
That's true. But one of the neat things about the Returners hideout is that I didn't actually realize until recently. When Bannon asks you if you will join them, you can actually tell him no 3 times, and you'll get a Genji glove rather than the gauntlet, which is amazing.
Holy shit! I didn't realize that either.
Yeah,
that's what I was telling you to do. Oh no, it wasn't you. Sorry, I told my friend Jacob to do that, and he was so like, oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, no, I was going to bring that up momentarily, but you beat me to the punch there.
I'm playing it on iOS.
My sympathies.
And we'll get to that because once we get to graphics, I'll talk about that then. But yeah, I just played that part like 2 or 3 days ago, so it made me remember it.
Okay, while Locke sneaks out of Figaro, he rescues an Imperial general turned traitor named Celis, and the two head north to Narsh. Sabin washes ashore north of the kingdom of Doma, and with the help of a ninja mercenary Shadow, infiltrates an imperial camp as the Empire attacks Doma Castle under General Leo Christoph's command. The Doma retainer... What the shit? The Doma retainer Cyan dispatches the Imperial commander to stall the attack, and Kefka poisons the river, killing Cyan's family and nearly all the castle inhabitants.
Damn you, chlorine!
Which is... this is actually probably one of the most standout moments from any Final Fantasy for me. It's genuinely emotional. With Cyan, especially when Cyan walks into his family's part of the castle and watches his wife and son die. That's
It also sets up Kefka's.
It hits you right in the feels, as the kids say today.
It also sets up Kefka's true villain status for literally being a poisoning rat bastard.
Definitely.
For sure.
All right.
Cody, back to you.
Guys, has it? All right.
Cyan joins Shadow and Sabin as they escape aboard the ghostly Phantom train, which ferries the dead to the other side. Cyan witnesses the Doma dead and his wife and child among those boarding the train. Shadow leaves as Sabin and Cyan leap down barren falls to Mobliz, and on the nearby Veld, they befriend a wild child named Gao, who shows them a diving helmet they use to swim to Nicaea, where they board a ferry to South Figaro. It sounds like you're giving me all the hard ones on purpose here.
No, I promise I'm not. But I am going to have to make an admission here. I lost my dad to cancer back in 2006, and I have these I have recurring dreams of being able to meet my dad in places that we both enjoyed going to all the time, such as sports venues and things of that nature. So upon replaying this game and getting to this scene, I legit burst out in tears watching this. It's super emotional watching Cyan watch his family board that train and stuff, and it gave me the cold chills and stuff.
The symbolism is very powerful.
Yeah.
Even if you can completely ruin it later during the fight against the train itself.
Yeah. Like the symbolism and the later on, because the fact that it doesn't go away and you later get that side quest in Doma Castle where it's no longer he's dealt with the traumatic moment and now it's just festering in his psyche. The entire storyline is just a freaking feels train.
Yeah. No, it really is. He's got some of the most emotional scenes.
There is literally a side quest that is his nightmares.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is this one of the earliest instances where we have a character in a game that's actively dealing with PTSD during the events of the game?
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
I would say so.
No.
I mean, I guess Rydia.
Rydia?
Yeah,
most actually of the members of Final Fantasy IV that are not named Cecil and Rosa, I think you could say, because your other party members, my daughter is dead, my girlfriend is dead, all of these people died under my watch. So the twins cause some PTSD. So maybe
yeah. Oh yeah, they do.
Because they pull that thing. There's our mentor figure just killed himself in front of us to try and KO the guy. So I could say that there's a lot of horrible trauma to be dealt with in 4, and then in 5, Galuf dies and Kryl has to deal with that.
I would say as far as seeing it in terms of like how it affects the gameplay and the character is actually talking about it. Not just that bad things happen, but with Rydia, we at least see like she can't use fire until she is given a pep talk by Rosa. In 9, Dagger has that scene where she can't really attack.
No, wait, we haven't gotten to 9 yet, JT. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So.
But I guess you could say the same for the characters from Final Fantasy II as well, even though I fucking hate Final Fantasy II, so...
Yeah, their PT effect is the entire battle system sucks.
Wow.
Fuck Final Fantasy 2.
Such-
All right, moving on.
And that's our
Such
quota
salt.
for the episode.
Such salt. All these flavors you could be, and you chose to be salt. I think you just guys need to get good. Get good, Scrub.
So does the game.
Game has a lot less. Game has
All
a
right,
lot
moving
less of
on.
a way to go.
JT?
Oh yes, it's back to me. Did I have to do something besides Beast? Okay, so Terra, Bannon, and Edgar arrive at Narsh and rendezvous with Arvis. The four urge the Elder of Narsh to join them as the Esper will draw Imperial attention. The others arrive, and Celeste knows that the Empire is already marching on Narsh. The returners station in the mountains to the Esper's resting place as Kefka leads the attack, claim the creature. Dispatching the Imperial forces and chasing off Kefka in one of the coolest sequences in the game, the returners save the town. They approach the Esper on the cliffs of town, and it reacts to Terra's presence. A surge of energy transforms Terra into a glowing pink monster. She handles it responsibly for about 5 seconds and then flies away
I
screaming.
just love that description. Glowing pink monster.
Isn't that puberty in a nutshell? You think you have
Yeah,
it handled,
exactly.
and then you just...
And you turn into a glowing
Christ.
pink monster. That's what they tell you in 6th grade, health class. You're going to turn into a glowing pink
Wow.
monster. It is perfectly normal.
Holy Christ. I'm moving on from that as quickly as I can.
Several
Ryu...
of the returners remain to protect them, while the search party heads to the west to find Terra. Using Figaro Castle to burrow under the mountains to Kolingen, they continue south to Judor and then to Zozo, a town of thieves. Atop the highest building, the group finds a transformed Terra under the care of the Esper Ramu. He tells the party about the War of the Magi and the Imperial invasion of their realm, and that he called Terra to him to put her to rest when her powers awoke. That is a terrible sentence. Just terrible. That need
It's like he
Well, not
euthanized
just
her or
that,
some
but-
shit.
the layout, the length, it's all terrible. It's
The
Ramo.
run-on.
Ramo had escaped the Empire with 3 comrades who fell during the escape and turned to magicite. Ramo says the Empire's methods of forcibly extracting magic from espers resulted in a weaker form of magic, but when an esper dies and crystallizes into magicite, their abilities can be transferred in full. Terra needs to accept her powers, but Ramo urges the party to rescue the other espers in the Imperial capital, and turns himself into magicite, entrusting the returners with his power and the power of his friends to fight the Empire.
That's a really powerful scene too.
Yeah.
And by the way, I just have to mention that roaming through the town of Zozo, it's a neat idea, but the random encounter rate in that fucking town is insane. It's
Yeah.
fucking insane.
It's the worst encounter rate probably in the game, in my opinion. Maybe it's just because you feel like you should not be getting as many because you're in a town, but I felt like I was getting into a fight at 2 floors,
Yeah.
Yeah, and not only that, but the slam dancers that show up start using like the level 2 spells, which do a great deal more damage than anything that you've come across that far as random encounters. The whole place is just a nightmare.
Yeah. I mean, the concept of the town is really well done.
Mm-hmm.
Just fuck the enemies in that town, man.
Yeah.
It is a good place to level up, though.
Yeah,
It's a good place to level up.
Bitchin' music too.
I guess. I guess I may have to disagree with that assessment, JT. That I think that theme music gets on my nerves after a while because it feels like you spend so much time in there from all the goddamn random encounters. Like, fuck! I just want to get out of here.
Need out.
Yeah. Get to the chopper.
We must get away from all of these treasure hunters.
All right. Red Mage, you're up.
Alright. Celis leads the expedition with Locke accompanying her. As no boats go to the southern continent, the group returns to Dodor where they meet the impresario, who worries Setzer Gabbiani, the wandering gambler, will abduct Maria, the star of the opera, Maria and Draco. Setzer owns the only private airship in the world, the Blackjack, and since Celis bears an uncanny resemblance to Maria, Locke hatches a plan for Celis to take Maria's place in the opera as a ploy to gain access to Setzer's airship. Ultros overhears the plan, and as a land octopus, I guess, and during the performance attempts to drop a weight on Celis. Locke and the others stop him, but the show is ruined, and in the commotion, Setzer abducts Celis. Celis helps Locke and the others sneak aboard the Blackjack, and Celis tricks Setzer into helping them using a two-headed coin.
So they kind of just glance over this in this paragraph here, but I just have to mention that the opera scene is probably just one of the most beautiful segments in any video game in history.
No, it's phenomenal.
When you ask people what they
So
think
well
of
done.
when they think of Final Fantasy VI, first thing everyone's going to say.
Mm-hmm.
Opera scene.
But can I also point out one thing here? One of our heroes, you meet him because he is trying to kidnap to do God knows what with some poor opera singer.
Yes.
And we thought Edgar was creepy.
Yes.
See, here, there's two things that really kind of weird me out about this whole scene that kind of takes it down a notch. Is that, Celis is, an Imperial General, and in her words, not some opera floozy, but yet she pulls off singing opera without
Well,
a
it's
hitch.
part of standard Imperial
Not a problem at
officer
all.
training is to be able to sing opera.
Oh,
See,
yeah,
they don't yell at the troops. They sing at the troops.
Yeah, it's how they code things.
Oh,
so
in
if you
opera,
hear,
I see.
that means go left, but you hear oh, that means go right.
Oh, okay. Well,
If they say Deo, then you jump in the line, your body in time.
But yeah, but that's guerrilla tactics. That's using Rasta, and that is not standard military tactics for the Empire.
Sorry. And what was the other thing that you wanted to point out?
Just that they mentioned that Setzer's got the only self-owned airship, but you don't ever really see any other airships ever throughout the entire game.
Yeah,
because I mentioned it that he's got the only one that that's self-owned, but then the Empire doesn't have any, or if they never show them. Then it's not like Baron's Red Wings.
They only show up in combat and not even in the map. Because you literally fight a bunch of them at one point as you're trying to head towards the floating island, but they don't actually show up except as
Oh yeah. Okay.
IAF,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. I do remember.
No, I can understand why
that
it
point
seems
is
like they never actually show up on the map or get mentioned outside of that.
Right? Because is it 3 in the NES version where the airships are actually just flying around on the map, or is
It's
it 2? One of them.
Two's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, they're just flying around on the world map, and it's just a really cool effect. But
Yes. I got to give it that much. That's awesome.
That's about the only thing about 2 that I will give
Except for all the other
anything
things
about.
that you here and there conceded about 2 that you just refuse to admit makes it a competent whole just because you're super salty about combat.
It's not even so much the combat though, Ryu. It's the level up system that's more the pain in the ass.
You hate the level up system, but that has blinded you to everything else good that the game did. Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, at least
you're honest.
The only thing about this scene that bothers me at all is that Ultros is somehow able to survive out of the water.
He's
here,
an octopus.
So, and
they can
this
live out of the water for quite
have you
some
seen
time.
Finding Dory? They can do whatever they want.
Apparently, they're also able to fly at one point too, which we'll get to later. So, but yes, this is the second time Ultros appears, and again, just he's full of smart-ass remarks. I love Ultros.
Yeah,
I won't begrudge him his ability to apparently fly and be on land and stuff.
The be on land part isn't even a stretch. Him being able to talk is a bigger stretch than him being on land as an octopus. It gets me that being on land is where you've decided to draw the line in the sand. When a real-life octopus would look at that line, flip you off with one of its tentacles, and just wander up. And get into something.
I love Ultros as a comic relief because people don't question why or how he does what he does. How did he get up onto the catwalk? Why does he need 5 minutes to push a giant weight? Why? How can he push a giant weight? Because F you, that's why.
Yeah. He's just a nonsense, self-contained. Nothing he does ever makes sense in the entire game, but it fits so perfectly that no one questions it.
And that's why he's the great man.
Cody, you totally reminded me of my favorite part of Good Will
The
Hunting.
part where the octopus comes and tries to push a giant weight onto.
No. When Will mentions that he takes the wrench, and he gets asked why, and he says, "'Cause fuck him, and that's why."
Yeah, but Will was an octopus. Anyways.
Okay. I don't even remember who the fuck we left off with.
Hey,
Is
we
it
left
my
off
turn?
on you at
Okay.
Setzer flies to Albrook.
Yeah, okay. Setzer flies the group to Albrook, and they set off north of the imperial capital of Vector. With the help of a returner sympathizer, they sneak into the Magitech research facility, where Magitech weapons are manufactured. Witnessing Kefka torturing two Espers, Shiva and Ifrit, they overhear him declare he will revive the warring triad. Shiva and Ifrit entrust their magicite to the group, and they continue through the facility and release several Espers being drained of their power. Their efforts are in vain as the Espers are too weak and turn to magicite. The Imperial Magicite researcher, Sid, arrives and tells Celis the rumors that she is acting as a spy for the Empire. Kefka appears and claims the rumors are true. Locke begins to doubt her, and Celis teleports herself and Kefka away as the facility begins to overload. Sid helps the party escape on a minecart, and they meet with Setzer and return to Zozo, destroying two cranes Kefka uses to destroy the Blackjack. And thus we were introduced to Indiana Jones
Yeah.
and Final Fantasy VI.
Indiana Jones and the Temple of Magicite.
Yes, sir. By the way, that... in hindsight, playing that sequence, the graphics are so awful. When you're on the, oh my god,
That didn't hold up well.
I actually had to put the game down and walk away because it's so bad. It's so
And
bad.
it's not even the Power Glove, so.
I don't remember the minecart scene very well, but that's probably for the better. I'm assuming it's kind of like Super Mario RPG's minecart sequence, but worse.
Worse.
And now
Considerably.
imagine like all the fun of the Serpent Trench sequence, not having to choose anything and just waiting for fights to happen while staring at pixelated rails coming towards you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's like
just
three-
bad.
it's like
I remember it
3D
now,
first
and like
person type
it'll occasionally have a turn or two, but it's just
Yeah.
like some crappy Mode 7 rails coming at you.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, pretty much.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Considering the other Mode 7 sequences they did,
Yeah.
it's shockingly bad.
Yeah, it does not hold up at all. Not at all. I'm sure it was cool back in the day. I'm sure I probably enjoyed it very much back in the day, but it doesn't hold up at all anymore.
No, it does not.
All right. In Zozo, one of the Magicite remain. Oh, wow. Okay, there we go. In Zozo, one of the Magicite remains the party acquired from the Magitech research facility is revealed to be that of Terra's father, Madeline, who restores her memories. Terra explains she is half human and half Esper, born from a human named Madeline, who had entered the Esper realm and befriended Madeline. When the Empire attacked 2 years later, Terra was taken along with Madeline and raised as a Magitech experiment due to her natural magic powers. Now accepting who she is, Terra and the party return to Narsh and tell the others of their plan to attack the Empire using the machinery of Figaro and the resources of Narsh, but they lack manpower. They decide to open the gate to the Esper world and ask their help. As a hybrid, Terra is living proof the two races can coexist peacefully.
Also, there's the sitcom about how the two of them fell in love called My Two Mads.
Yeah, so the whole sequence of like the Empire peace thing is I like running around and talking to folks. I like that's actually a really good story moment. But the entire time looking back, obviously with the benefit of hindsight, but still I'm like, so obviously going to betray you. How did you fall for any of this?
Yep.
Well, technically speaking,
Yep.
it's Kefka, not the Emperor, who decides to betray you.
That is true, and we're going to get to that later in the plot, because the dinner scene is one of my favorites.
Yeah. The dinner scene actually has an
Oh,
interesting...
yeah.
So, you will be given a reward based on the number of people that you talk to And so it's literally, there's a mini game that you have to think about how quick it is to run around and talk to people and how long they talk to you for. Because the time still goes down.
It's
while they
literally
talk.
While
like
also avoiding.
it's
and
literally
also
like a
combat.
speed run with like optimization and everything.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Pro tip: don't go talk to Kev 20
Nope.
seconds. It
Yeah.
doesn't count.
Never talk to
Yep.
Kefka.
Yep, you're gonna waste your time.
I think it's
JT,
me
you were...
now. Yeah.
Yep.
Gate to the Esper world appears as Terra begins to call out to the Espers. Her cries open the gate and the Espers rush out, decimating Vector and crashing the Blackjack. In the Imperial Palace, Emperor Gestal tells the party the Esper's power has made him realize the error of his ways. He declares a truth, asks the returners and Terra to help him locate the Espers that fled the gate, and make them understand the war is over. And Locke accompany General Leo to Crescent Island to track the Espers. To assist their efforts, Leo has hired Shadow. Celeste accompanies them as well, acting as an Imperial general. When approached, she refuses to speak to Locke or Terra due to their earlier suspicion of her true motives. Hashtag she has a big old hissy fit.
Yeah. At Crescent Island, Terra, Locke, and Shadow split from the Empire and find the backwater town of Thamasa, where all the strongest mages in the world apparently live. Specifically,
Yeah, they're just all
Strigo and his
hanging out.
granddaughter Realm, who feign having no knowledge of Espers or magic. Realm gets trapped in a burning building, and the townspeople reveal they can use magic when trying to put the fire out. Terra, Locke, and Strago enter the building to save her and are rescued by Shadow, who has come to get his dog, Interceptor, that had followed them inside, and no other motive. At all. For serious, guys. I'm not doing it to save the girl. It's 'cause my dog, who just happens to really like the girl.
Memento ring.
Strago explains that Thamasa was founded by
Memento ring.
magic-imbued humans after the War of the Magi, who sought to live normal lives, and as their descendants, the townsfolk have some magical power. Strago agrees to help Terra and Locke locate the Espers, and though Realm wishes to help, too, Strago refuses. Shadow leaves to find the Espers on his own with Interceptor. So, interesting fact, there is a plot mechanic crossover here, in that Strago, Realm, and then the two Magicite experiments in the party, or the Esper crosses, which includes Celis, as she is an experimentee, they can learn some magic normally, without the aid of Espers.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I think even at, like, I think Terra is level 75 or some ridiculously high level.
Yes.
She learns Ultima naturally, right?
But everybody else has to use Espers.
What's
Yeah.
What's the highest level spell that Terra learns? I'm trying to remember.
Ultima, I think it's Ultima 75, because that's when I picked it up by natural. Because I knew she did it at some point.
Or not Terra,
I want to
Celis,
say
I'm sorry.
Blizzaga?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
she's got like ice themed spells, so I would imagine it's that or a high level healing spell. I'm not sure.
Okay. Red Mage.
Alright. At the Esper Caves, a third run-in with Ultros prompts Realm to intervene and save the party with her ability to sketch living portraits of monsters, and Strago agrees to let her join them. The group finds the Espers, led by Yura, now apologetic about the destruction of Vector as they lost control of their powers when passing through the gate between realms. In Thamasa, General Leo and Yura reach a truce, but Kefka arrives and kills the Espers, takes their Magicite, and knocks out the party, claiming he is acting under the Emperor's orders. When Leo tries to stop him, Kefka kills him.
That son of a bitch.
Yeah. The gate to the Esper world flies open, and several Espers race to attack Kefka, but he destroys them and takes their Magicite before departing. Alerted to the Empire's treachery, Setzer and the other returners, sans Bannon, arrive at Thamasa in the Blackjack. Kefka and Gestal enter the Esper realm and find the remains of the Warring Triad and use their
shit's
power
about
to
to
raise
get
the
real.
floating continent. Yeah.
Insert Avengers 2 plot here. The returners board the floating continent, fighting the Imperial Air Force, as well as Ultros and his friend Mr. Typhon. Again, fuckery with Ultros.
The flying octopus.
Just say that Typhon did it.
They find Shadow, who had kept working for the Empire until they tried to kill him. After a battle with the legendary Ultima weapon, Shadow departs as the returners confront Kefka and Gestal before the Warring Triad. Celes arrives as Gestal paralyzes the party, and he and Kefka urge Celes to return to their side and kill her friends so the three of them can rule the world. Celes refuses and stabs Kefka in an oh fuck yeah moment.
It's true.
That was fucking amazing. I loved her just walking up and just running him through. It's too bad she didn't kill the son of a bitch.
For real.
But
It's even awesome to see in the tiny little sprites, because you can see like where they went through the trouble to make it look there was actually like impaling going on. It was awesome.
You know, my actual favorite part of that whole thing is Kefka dramatically feigning the injury and shit, sort of similar to the way I can't remember the character's name from the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie. Oh,
yeah, no.
Oh,
Don't
I'm
remember
not-
that
not-
name
yeah,
at all.
crickets. Chirp,
Like
chirp, chirp.
I know who you're talking about, but I couldn't tell you a damn relevant thing about the Buffy the Vampire Slayer movie.
I mean, it was awful
We'll
for
just
sure.
call
It
him
just
Vampire
reminds me of
movie.
that. So, yeah. Who the fuck's turn is it?
Once again, I think
Oh.
we're at you.
Are we?
Are we?
Fuck.
Wait, I think he just read.
Oh, he just read. So yeah, Cody.
All right.
Kefka attempts to awaken the Triad.
Yeah,
Kefka
yeah.
attempts to awaken the Triad, and Gestal, knowing this would lead to a disaster, tries to stop him but is struck down. Kefka kicks Gestal off the floating continent to his doom and moves the statues out of alignment. Celes warns him the Triad's powers will go haywire, but Kefka laughs it off. With Shadow's assistance, the party flees to the Blackjack, but the Warring Triad's magical field has been destabilized and radically shifted the face of the planet. The Blackjack is destroyed and the party is scattered around the world.
And we're going to bookmark it right here for part 1 of our Final Fantasy VI retrospective. Join us next time for part 2 of the Final Fantasy VI retrospective. Music featured on this podcast is courtesy and copyright of Square Enix.